My name is Ellen Harper. I'm 61, a widow living in a quiet corner of a small Maine town where the fog rolls in off the coast most mornings. I spent 30 years as an accountant, crunching numbers to keep life steady for my two kids, Chloe, who's 34, and Ethan, 30. Everything I've done every late night, every missed dream, was for them. I thought that's what love meant, giving until you're empty. But last Tuesday, an email changed everything. I was at my kitchen table, sunlight barely creeping through the blinds, a mug of chamomile tea gone cold in my hands. My laptop pinged. It was Chloe, my daughter, the one I'd poured my heart into. I smiled, expecting wedding details. She was getting married in California, a big, beautiful affair. I'd already sent $40,000 for the venue flowers and the photographer she had to have. I was about to wire another $60,000. But her email wasn't about details. It was short cold. Mum, we've finalized the guest list. It's best if you watch the wedding via Livestream. It'll be just as special, Mum. Trust me. I stared at the screen, the glow burning my tired eyes. Just as special. After all I'd given some moments crack open the truth. The love you pour out doesn't always come back. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. But something inside me shifted like a tide pulling away from the shore. If you've ever felt like a stranger in your own family, leave a comment with the city you're watching from. I'd like to know how far this story reaches. As I sat there, the cold tea still in my hand, memories flooded in like waves against the Maine shore. 15 years ago, my world shattered when my husband passed, leaving me to raise Chloe and Ethan alone. I was 36. Standing in our cramped kitchen bills, stacked like a losing poker hand on the counter. I worked overtime, my eyes burning from computer screens to pay for Chloe's college, even when she switched majors twice. My dream of seeing Paris, I traded it for her tuition. My old sedan rattling for 12 years, I kept it to save for Ethan's first house. Every choice was for them. I remember Chloe's 16th birthday. Friends invited me to a concert, a rare chance to feel young again, but I stayed home frosting her cake until midnight, piping roses she'd never noticed. When Ethan needed a car for his new job, I wrote the check without a second thought. I told myself it was worth it. My kids would never know the struggle I did. But love, I learned, can be a one-way street. I wasn't bitter. I didn't keep score. But Chloe's email, that cold watch via Livestream, cut deeper than I expected. I was a candle burning to warm my children, but no one ever asked if I had light left to give. Staring at my laptop, I whispered to myself, what was all this for? The silence in my kitchen held no answers, only the weight of years given away. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just closed the laptop with a soft click, the sound louder in my head than it should have been. My chamomile tea sat cold in its mug, forgotten in my hands. I stared out the kitchen window, but the Maine fog outside blurred into nothing. Chloe's words watch via Livestream kept looping in my mind. I felt like I'd been erased from my family's portrait, a brushstroke someone decided was unnecessary. All those years, all that love reduced to a Google Meet link. I opened the email again, typed 4 words, wishing you a happy day. No anger, no plea, just a quiet surrender. But inside, something cracked. Not loud, not dramatic, just a deep, silent fracture. I walked to the living room, sank into the old armchair, and let the darkness settle around me. The streetlight slipped through the curtains, casting thin shadows across the floor. It was just me and the hum of the house, a stillness that felt heavier than grief. I wasn't ready to fight, not yet. But sitting there alone, I knew something had to change. The woman who gave everything was starting to wonder if she'd given too much. Chloe. My daughter always had a way of shining brighter than the room. At 34, she's built a life most would envy, successful job, charming fiancé, a wedding planned to dazzle. But that shine came at a cost, one I paid without question. To Chloe, I was an endless bank, always open, always giving. College tuition, cross-country moves, that time she needed a new wardrobe to start fresh. I wrote the checks. No hesitation. She'd thank me with a quick text, maybe a hug if I was lucky, but gratitude. That was rare. Ethan, my 30-year-old son, was quieter, less demanding, but no less complicit. When Chloe decided I'd watch her wedding from a screen, Ethan didn't call, didn't argue. His silence stung as much as her words. I think back to last Thanksgiving. Chloe cancelled her visit, blaming work. I still sent her a care package, homemade cranberry sauce, and a check for extras. She didn't come, didn't call to thank me. I told myself it was fine, that's what mothers do. But sitting in my dark living room, Chloe's email still burning in my mind, I saw it clearly. Sometimes people only see you when they need you. My kids had taken my love for granted, like it was a well that had never run dry. I'd spent years filling their lives, but who was filling mine? The next evening, my doorbell rang, pulling me from the fog of my thoughts. It was Clara, my college friend, now running a small flower shop in town. Her greying curls bounced as she stepped inside, her eyes, sharp, seeing through the smile I plastered on. "Ellen, you look like you're carrying the world," she said, setting a bag of fresh scones on the counter. I shrugged, muttering something about a long day, but Clara wasn't fooled. She'd always known me better than I knew myself. We sank into the sofa, steaming mugs of tea between us, the glow of my old table lamp wrapping us in warmth. Clara shared her own story, how she'd once cut off her selfish brother when he treated her like a cash machine. "You're not anybody's ATM, Ellen," she said, her voice firm but kind. "You've given enough. It's time to take something back." Her words landed like a soft spark, igniting something I hadn't felt in years, hope. For the first time since Chloe's email, I didn't feel alone. Clara's presence, her quiet strength, reminded me I was more than a mother who'd been pushed aside. Maybe, just maybe, I could find a way to stand up for myself. The next morning, I drove to the bank, the weight of Chloe's emails still heavy in my chest. The main sky was grey, a light drizzle misting the windshield, but I barely noticed. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed as I approached the counter. The teller, a young man with kind eyes, looked up. "Mrs. Harper, what can I do for you?" I took a breath, my voice steady. "I need to cancel a wire transfer. The $60,000 for my daughter's wedding." His eyebrows shot up. "That's a big sum, Mum." "Are you sure?" I met his gaze, unflinching. "I've never been surer." I signed the forms, my pen moving with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just a transaction I was cancelling, it was the role I'd played for too long, the invisible mother fading into the background of my children's lives. Each stroke of the pen felt like signing a new contract, one with myself, promising to value the woman I'd forgotten. When I stepped outside, the rain was soft cool against my skin. I didn't bother with an umbrella. I stood tall, letting the drops slide down my face, feeling lighter than I had in decades. For the first time, I wasn't giving to someone else. I was taking back my worth. By evening, my phone was buzzing like a trapped bee. Chloe's voicemails piled up, each one sharper than the last. "Mum, you're ruining my wedding." She snapped in one, her voice dripping with panic and blame. I didn't listen to them all, just enough to know she saw my choice as betrayal, not a stand. Then Ethan showed up, his coat still damp from the Maine drizzle, his face tight with frustration. "Chloe needs you, Mum," he said, pacing my living room. "Why are you being so selfish?" The word hit like a slap. Selfish. After decades of giving my time, my dreams, my savings, I stood straighter, meeting his eyes. "I've given my whole life, Ethan. Now I'm taking some back." He scoffed as if my worth was measured only by what I could provide. That's when it broke the dam I'd built to hold my pain. "If you can't see my value," I said, my voice calm but sharp as a blade, "don't stand in my house." He froze, stunned, then turned and left. The door clicked shut, the sound echoing in the quiet. I stood alone, heart pounding, but no regret came. The air felt clearer, like I'd finally exhaled a breath I'd held too long. I wasn't just their mother anymore. I was Ellen, and I was done being invisible. A few days later, my inbox pinged again. I braced myself, expecting another plea from Chloe, but the sender's name stopped me cold. James, the groom's father. A stranger. His email was short, but heavy with sincerity. Mrs. Harper. I'm sorry for what's happened, he wrote. I fought against excluding you from the wedding, but I was overruled. I don't know you, but I know a mother like you deserves respect. His words landed like a warm hand on my shoulder, unexpected and steady. Tucked in the mail the next day was a handwritten card from him inviting me to a small gathering after the wedding. So you're still part of the day, he wrote. I sat at my kitchen table, the card in my hands, its edges worn from my touch. The morning light filtered through the window, soft and golden, as my eyes blurred with tears I hadn't shed before. Not tears of hurt, but of being seen by someone who owed me nothing. I smiled a small, quiet curve of my lips, feeling a warmth I'd almost forgotten. James didn't know my story, but he saw my worth, and at that moment, I began to see it too. The sun was dipping low when Chloe showed up at my door, her eyes red, her voice trembling. Mum, I'm sorry, she said, words spilling out fast, but we're losing everything. The venue, the caterer. If you send the money, I'll make sure you're at the wedding. It was an apology wrapped in a bargain, her regret hinging on what I could give. I stood in the doorway, the Maine evening cool against my skin, and felt the weight of her words. For years, I'd been her safety net, her open wallet. Not anymore. Love isn't a transaction, Chloe. I said, my voice steady, cutting through the dusk. I'm not your bank. Her face crumpled, tears streaming, but I didn't waver. You need to value what you have before asking for more. She stood there searching for words, but none came. The silence stretched heavy with truths we'd both avoided too long. Finally, she turned her footsteps fading down the path as the sunset swallowed her silhouette. I stayed in the doorway, the air sharp and clear, my heart calm but resolute. This wasn't about anger. It was about reclaiming myself. I'd spent decades building her world. Now I was building mine, and no price tag could buy me back. Weeks passed, and Chloe's wedding came and went. Not the grand California affair she'd dreamed of, but a small backyard gathering stripped of the glamour I'd once funded. I wasn't invited, and for the first time, I didn't care. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was peaceful, like the calm after a storm. I started living for myself, something I hadn't done in decades. I joined a book club, losing myself in novels under the soft hum of discussion. I took painting classes, my brushstrokes clumsy, but free, each one a step toward rediscovering Ellen. Dinners with Clara became my new ritual, laughter over pasta stories that didn't revolve around what I could give. Sitting in my garden one afternoon, I painted a canvas, sunlight filtering through the maple leaves, dappling the paper with gold. Freedom, I realized, isn't about leaving others behind. It's about finding yourself again. I wasn't running from my kids. I was walking toward a life where I mattered. The weight of their expectations, their demands, had lifted. I was no longer the mother who existed to serve. I was Ellen, painting her own story, one vibrant stroke at a time. If this story's got you thinking, drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what it stirred in you. Looking back, I see now what I couldn't before. True love doesn't demand you burn yourself out to keep others warm. For years, I thought being a mother meant giving everything, my time, my dreams, my heart, without expecting anything back. But Chloe's email, that cold dismissal, taught me something: sharper sacrifice isn't always valued. I don't regret loving my kids, pouring my soul into their lives. But I do regret forgetting to love myself. That was my mistake, one I won't repeat. This isn't just my story, it's a wake-up call. If you're over 50, you've probably felt it too, the weight of giving to family, friends, or a world that doesn't always give back. We're taught to put others first, especially as parents. But there's a truth we don't hear. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's how you protect your worth. I learned to say no, not out of anger, but to reclaim a life that means something to me. You can too. Look at how you're treated. If it doesn't honor who you are, draw that line. You're worth it. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Hit like and subscribe for more stories that remind us to live for ourselves, not just for others. These days, I find joy in the small things, the ones I overlooked for years. Finishing a painting in my garden, the colors bold and unapologetic. Laughing with friends over coffee, our stories weaving through the evening like old songs. a short drive to the Maine coast, where the ocean stretches wide and endless. Each moment feels like a gift I'm giving myself, a life I'm finally claiming. One night I sat at my desk and wrote a letter to Chloe. I forgive you, I wrote, but I'm choosing me first. I never sent it. The words weren't for her, they were for me to let go of the hurt and make room for peace. Life, I've learned, is like a canvas. You have to pick up the brush and paint your own happiness stroke by stroke. Standing on the beach one morning, the wind tugging at my hair, I felt it, a quiet smile spreading across my face. I wasn't the mother who only gave anymore. I was Ellen, whole and free, painting a new chapter. If you've ever set a boundary to protect your heart, share your story in the comments below. Like, share and subscribe too. Catch more stories like this one's that remind us to live for ourselves. Looking back, I see now what I was blind to for years. Love shouldn't cost you your soul. I gave everything to my kids, my time, my dreams, my heart, thinking that's what made me a good mother. But Chloe's email taught me a hard truth. Giving without boundaries can leave you empty and visible, even to those you love most. The lesson isn't to stop loving, it's to love yourself just as fiercely. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival, a way to honor the person you are. I don't regret the years I poured into my children, but I wish I'd saved some of that love for myself sooner. This story is for anyone who's ever felt taken for granted, especially those of us over 50 who've given until it hurts. Look at your life. Are you valued for who you are, not just what you provide? If not, it's never too late to draw that line. You deserve a life that lights you up. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and drop a comment about a time you stood up for your worth. Like and subscribe for more stories that remind us to live fully for ourselves.